Grow. Grew. Grown. When you grow up, what will you be when you grow up? She grows, she learns, she improves. Her interest is growing. She grows and she will prove herself. She grows in curiosity. She is curious.
Curiosity.
Her passion is growing stronger.
She grows in confidence.
She grows in confidence.
I will grow in confidence, prove myself, and reach my full potential.
This is where ambition grows, where potential grows, and where your future grows.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to learn about the sky at night.
Cambridge is where your world grows.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to this exclusive webinar for all our Cambridge English Schools. My name is Sofia Moreno. I'm the Cambridge English Schools manager, and we are here today at Colegio Guadalajara, where we have three Cambridge English Schools joined together. We have Colegio Guadalajara, Instituto Tepeyac Campus Guadalajara, and Instituto Tepeyac Capital Norte. So what we're doing is, remember last time we were in Ensenada, we're doing this Consejos Técnicos Watch Along because we want to build on the Cambridge English Schools community. So we're very excited for today's webinar because we have an amazing speaker, Alberto Acosta, who will be presenting the topic of the webinar is Building Learners' Confidence. Information is power. Alberto Acosta is a senior academic service manager and has been working for Cambridge University Press for 8 years. With a solid English language teaching background, Alberto has worked as a teacher trainer, and academic consultant for 30 years. Having also worked as a course tutor for the teaching qualifications CELTA and Delta, and he's joining us from Brazil. Welcome, Alberto. How are you? Good morning.
Hello, Sophia, and hello, everyone. Good morning. Well, I'm fine, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much, and all yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sophia, and hola a todos. It's a pleasure to be here. Having been to Mexico, Mexico City in particular, a couple of times, I only wish I were there, in person, interacting with you. So I would like to thank Sophia and her team for bringing me here today. I saw that last month there was a webinar that you attended with me and Sarah, and we're going to make some connections with that topic as well. So we're going to start by looking at today's topic, which is building learners' confidence. Information is power. Yeah. Well, this is part of a series of topics, and the source for those topics I will be sharing with you in a moment. So to start with, I would like to share, the overview of what we are going to cover this morning. We're going to start with what it is that makes students build confidence, what kind of knowledge students need to have. We're going to consider some questions that learners ask, that learners come to us, teacher. At least in Brazil, they use teacher as a vocative, to draw teachers' attention, especially when they have questions. But we are also going to focus on some frequently asked questions from learners when they are preparing for the exam, right? And of course, I will need your participation in some of the activities that we are going to do throughout this webinar. We're going to talk about the information for candidate booklets. Those booklets are new. They have been revised and they bring lots of new information. And if you haven't been using them with learners, I'm going to be giving you some ways for you to make this resource available for your students. I think it's a great resource. It has lots of information and they have been neatly redesigned, so that learners feel attracted to access this resource. Of course, I'll be sharing with you where you can find this resource and share them with learners, right? We're going to talk about using exam information in digital quizzes and non-digital alternatives as well, because that will depend on the preferences of your learners or your own preferences, or maybe the way you like to organize your teaching context, yeah? We're going to talk about building knowledge of the test. We have options for all the learners. In this section, we're going to make a connection with something you saw last month. And then we're going to talk about building knowledge of the test with a variation for young learners, yeah? So I hope you find the ideas useful. Of course, after each activity, we're going to talk about the value of this proposal to learners, right? And of course, many of those ideas can be adapted by you and your colleagues to meet learners' needs. And there will be a moment for check-in and useful links that I'll be sharing with you. And of course, as you do the check-in, I'll be sharing some references as well. And we will have time for questions and answers, right? So last month, the webinar that you saw involved the exam preparation journey. So this is a portal that was put together by Cambridge, and it was really nicely organized by many competent hands. This exam preparation journey portal is full of ideas. It has been organized in such a way that teachers can consult the content at any point in the school year. So the idea is for the portal to bring teaching tips, classroom activities that are ready for you to use, and of course, time-appropriate content to read, watch, and download. We say time-appropriate because if you are at a point when you need to build learners' confidence, there is a dedicated pack for you. If you are at a point where you need to use the sample tests as mock tests, then there is a specific pack for you. So this is the idea that the activities here are time appropriate and you can consult them in any order that you feel convenient for your context. Yeah. Well, you can see that this portal has 10 packs, and each pack has a specific focus, and each pack relates to a point in the exam preparation journey. And some of the ideas that I'll be sharing with you today relate to pack 3, which is about building autonomy and also sharing information about the exams with learners. Yeah. So information is key to building confidence. So this is why we'll be focusing on this topic today. And of course, throughout the session, I'll be asking you to, join the chat and engage and participate. So when we talk about building confidence, it's very important that we bear in mind what it is that learners need to know in order to feel confident, confident to enjoy most of all the experience of taking a Cambridge exam. Yeah. So they need knowledge of a number of things. For example, they need knowledge of English because depending on the level, they need to show that they have, the skills and systems like vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, which is adequate and expected for the level of the exam they are going to sit. So knowledge of English is important, and that's what you are doing with your learners, throughout the school year. They also need knowledge of the test, so getting to know the test, length of the papers, specific exam tasks, how to behave, in the different exam papers, etc. And of course, they need as well knowledge of exam day rules. This is a moment when learners might feel anxious. So understanding that there are exam day rules is important. So you are already building their English language skills and competencies. And this is also a moment to make students aware of all the things related to the test and the exam day. And of course, it's only natural that learners ask questions. And, it's only natural that they have doubts about what to do, what to expect. And you, as their teacher, is the first point of contact. Yeah. So we're going to do an activity now called Teacher Teacher. This is about questions that learners usually ask. So I have here, the typical classroom situation, teacher, teacher. What are the typical questions that learners ask about the exam? Can you share some thoughts in the chat, please? And I will be following the content that you type here in the chat. So the typical, what about, what if, can I? So can you share some thoughts in the chat in terms of questions that learners usually ask? Oh, great. What if you don't understand what to do? Yeah, what if I skip an activity? Yeah. Sophia, Susan, great. Okay, what if I don't understand what they're asking me? Okay, how do you say? Yeah, typical, how do you say? Exactly. Any other kinds of questions that you hear from your learners? In case you are in a room, attending the webinar as a group with other colleagues, you can assign one person to go and type the options for you. Can I use more than one option? Can I skip an activity? How do you write? Yeah, typical Margarita. Yeah, exactly. Any more? I'm sure, if you think about, the past few lessons you have taught, you have heard, questions from learners. Can I color all the pictures? Typical as well. Yeah, typical for the young learners exams. Yes. Yeah, interesting question, Susan. Can I answer in my language? What does it mean? Yeah. Mm. That's a good point, Cecilia. What if I don't understand a word? Yeah. This is what happens, very, very typical. But like any, external international exam, learners have, questions that we are aware and we can answer confidently, and questions that, sometimes can be a bit of a surprise for us. What if I don't have enough time? Exactly. So now that we have a number of questions over here, I have here some questions to share with you. How confidently can you answer these questions that I'm going to show here for you? For example, the first question is, are words like doesn't and isn't counted as one or two words? This is a typical question when learners are writing their writing tasks for the exam, and then there is a word count, depending on the exam, and then they have questions like this. Can you answer this question confidently? Another question, what if I don't understand all the words in a text, like Susan preemptively mentioned in the chat? This is a typical question from learners. These are just examples, right? This is not, by all means a comprehensive list, because we'll be looking at other questions that learners ask. So what happens if I need more paper? Can you, answer this confidently? What would you say to learners? What if I can't hear the recording? Listening has started, students are in a room with a few other candidates, and then they have, a question such as this one. And what if my partner for the speaking test is better than me at speaking skills? I remember this was a very popular question when I, started preparing learners for the Cambridge exams. And for many years, I heard this question. What if I speak a lot? And what if my partner is better than me? So think about the question at the top. Can you answer those questions confidently? We are going to do, a quiz to check your level of confidence answering those questions. But before we start the quiz, can you look at those 5 questions and type the letter related to the question that you would answer with great confidence? So which of those 5 questions would you be able to answer confidently? Can you type the letter? Just A, B, C, D, or E? Which one or which ones would you be able to answer confidently? Great, great, Julio. Gracias. Okay. Okay, so B and D, what to say to your learners and how to help them. So B and D are popular questions. Okay. B and E, all right. So Fernanda has mentioned B and E. Okay, great, Cecilia. E. Fantastic. Since, thank you, Tyra. B and D, again, B and D, D. So you know what to say to your learners in terms of B, D, and E. That's the level of confidence I can gauge from the comments in the chat. So thank you very much for your participation. Fantastic. Let's look at those frequently asked questions from learners, right? As I said, some questions we can answer confidently. Some questions can be, a bit of a surprise. So when we look at reading and use of English, for example, learners might have questions such as this one. Number of words if contractions count as 1 or 2 words. So what if I don't understand all the words in a text? Even if a Cambridge exam doesn't have a dedicated use of English paper like B1 preliminary, A2 key, Some of the tasks are similar, like, for example, multiple choice close and open close. And then they might come to you and say, what if I don't understand all the words in the text, right? In terms of writing, what happens if I need more paper? What if I write too much or if I don't write enough? So this is a typical question as well. So how much is too much? Learners understand that there is a range. Yeah, they have to write between X and Y words, but they may have a question if they write a bit more or not enough for the word count. In terms of listening, how important is spelling? This is also a typical question that learners usually ask. And then what if I can't hear the recording, especially if they are in a room and there may be an issue or maybe the audio can be too low. In terms of speaking, what if my partner is better than me? Learners may have this impression. And a typical one, why are there two examiners for the speaking test? So again, these are some samples of questions that learners can ask. But as I show you those samples of questions, I keep, this umbrella question to you. Can you answer all those questions confidently if learners come to you? If not, I'm going to give you the stepping stones to find all the answers. So yeah, learners have questions, they are frequent, but where are the answers? The answers to those questions for you and for your learners are in the Information for Candidates booklets. So here I have two samples of those Information for Candidate booklets. If you look at the one on the left for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, this Information for Candidates also includes the parents because they are young learners and they might need support from parents. Even though it is written in English, the level of language in the Information for Candidates is such that chances are that parents will be able to follow the content even if their English is not at a high level. So this was taken into consideration so that parents could have a level of understanding accessing the Information for Candidates and parents. From A2 key onwards, we have Information for Candidates. Again, language was taken into consideration so that learners at those respective levels will be able to follow the content as well. So the Information for Candidates booklets, they have been redesigned to bring information that is organized in practical ways. And we are going to explore those ways in detail, right? So they are new booklets. They have been redesigned to look more attractive. We have one for the young learners exams, so they are all here. And we have specific ones for the different levels from A2 key onwards. It's important to mention that even though you can only see up to B2 first here, we also have new booklets for C1 Advanced and C2 Proficiency as well. Of course, I assume that at level B2, C1, C2, learners will have no difficulty understanding the content of those booklets, right? They are short, information is precise and conveyed in a way that is attractive and organized, in bullet points. We are going to explore. So if you look at the young learners Information for Candidates and parents, you will find, links in the PDF that parents can go to that will help parents to go to specific sections of the booklet, as you can see here. And of course, a lot of the information is organized like this in Q&A format. This helps the reader. It resembles the way we read information nowadays, on websites. on the mobile phone screen, like Q&A, infographic, full of illustrations. So it's quite attractive in that sense. And then we look at the information for candidate booklets for the other levels, starting from level A2 key. You have, a long table of contents. Information has been categorized to, so that learners can find them easily, right? Again, we have information about each paper that comes like this in Q&A format. So the Q&A introduces the content about each of the papers in a Cambridge exam. And of course, a lot of the information for each paper in an exam is organized in do's and don'ts format, as you can see here in the image on the right. So lots of do's and don'ts, short texts, really, reader friendly, and of course, student friendly as well. But I would like to draw your attention to those do's and don'ts section. You will find that at the top of the page, you have do's and don'ts, which are specific to any format of the Cambridge exam, be it paper-based or digital. And in the lower part of the page, you have information that is specific about the paper-based exam. So do's and don'ts if students are sitting the paper-based exam. So it's, as I said, it's brand new. It takes into consideration the different formats of the exam. And the idea is to support teachers and learners, this one in particular for learners because it was designed for candidates. And then this is where you will find the information for candidates booklets. If you go to the exam preparation section, you can click on the exam of your choice and you will find the Learner Essentials. In the Learner Essentials, you will find the link to download the information for candidates booklets. And it's very important that we teach you, where to go so that you can, help the students, by giving them the link or maybe displaying the booklet on a screen in your classroom so you can use them in any way you like. So that's the link where you will find the exam preparation journey, right? And what we are going to do now is we're going to find ways to create, an exam Q&A activity based on the information for candidate booklets, yeah? So one way that we can do this is, for example, using something that teachers adore, Kahoot. I know, I'm not going to tell you what a Kahoot is because every teacher knows and teachers tend to love Kahoot, yeah? So using, those questions that I asked you at the beginning, in a Kahoot kind of format can be interesting for learners because learners have been using Kahoots with teachers. And, Kahoot is something that is easy to customize. But what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that we are using Kahoot so that you can participate using the chat, yeah? So let's start. We're going to start playing. And I would like you to type your answers in the chat box. Sometimes you will see answers A, B, sometimes A, B, and C. So you can just use the letters to provide the answers in the chat, yeah? Of course, these are questions that teachers are familiarized with, but we are pretending that I am the teacher and I am using those questions with learners, right? So let's pretend we are playing Kahoot in the classroom. First question, it's about reading and use of English. Are words like doesn't and isn't counted as one or two words? So what's the answer to this question? Can you type A or B? Okay, I have a mixture here of A's and a mixture of B's. Okay. All right. So, of course, the answers to those questions come from the information from for candidates guides, yeah, the booklets. But I can still see a bit of a mixture, let's say 50-50, 50% A, 50% B. All right, so are you ready for the answer? I'm going to ask Sophia to check who is getting everything right. That will be a hard task, Sophia. Too many people participating and engaging, which is really nice. Okay, so the answer to this is 2 words. So if you're using doesn't or isn't as a contraction, it counts as 2 words because they are in fact 2 words. They are a verb and the not there. So this is what Cambridge says in the criteria and also in the information for candidates booklets. Fantastic, everyone. Let's go to the next question now. Still reading and use of English. What if I don't understand all the words in a text? What do I do? A, B, or C? Fantastic. Well, we cannot consider letter A because, mobile phones and gadgets in general are not allowed into the exam room. And of course, dictionaries are not allowed either. So the answer to this one is letter C. So work out the meaning from the context. So this is something that even though it's a good tip for the exam, but to practice this with learners, we start in the classroom. We start way before learners are ready, to go and sit the exam. So teaching them how to do this is really important. Let's go to the next question now. This is about writing. What happens if I need more paper? A or B? Well, the answer is A. Raise your hand and ask for more paper. We cannot reduce the word count because depending on the level of the exam, you have to include a lot of words, like, for example, B2 first. But if you need more paper, you can raise your hand and ask for more paper, yeah? Of course, the space in the booklet, in the exam booklet, has enough space for you to add your content, but sometimes you might need paper to make some notes, and then you can raise your hand and ask for more paper during the exam. All right, let's look at listening now. What if I can't hear the recording? A or B? Fantastic. This is B, because you cannot leave the exam room unless you have completed the task. And in the listening exam, there is a time when the listening is over for everyone, so you cannot leave the room. This is great. But you can raise your hand immediately to ask for help so that the invigilator can turn up the volume. But if you are doing the digital exam, you have your headphones. So you are not going to have this problem, fingers crossed, yeah? But if you are in a room with other candidates, someone will help you. Okay, in terms of speaking, what if my partner for the speaking test is better than me at speaking skills? Is the answer A or B? Okay, I really, really love the participation. Lots of answers here. Yeah, of course. The answer to this is don't worry. You will get a fair opportunity to show your skills because examiners are trained, to handle those situations. So it's important to help the students understand that they can feel comfortable and trust the examiners because the grades are given individually, yeah, even though they are doing the exam in pairs from A to B2 first, because young learners, it's individual. But if they are doing it in pairs, it's important to let students know that don't worry, the examiners will be able to handle the situation. They are well trained, to give each candidate enough opportunities to show their skills, and students shouldn't worry about it. So, well, thank you so much for your participation in this quiz. We're going to be working with other activities as well, and then I'll be inviting you to participate, yeah? But there may be situations where Kahoot is not for you. Maybe Kahoot is not your favorite kind of activity. Maybe you want to allow students more time to consolidate some bits of information because Kahoot is great, but it's a game. Sometimes learners worry so much about scoring points that they immediately forget what they were discussing or answering questions about, after they have completed the activity. So in case you want maybe a follow-up or you want a different way of working with this, you don't need to do it in Kahoot format because there are alternatives, right? You could, select some questions and write a worksheet, and then you can use the information for candidate booklets for learners to do scanning activities. It's an option, right? So because the booklets bring Q&A format, students can do this as a reading activity. So you can select some questions and then they have to, check the material on the PDF and maybe they can scan it with a QR code, etc. And then they can do reading skills to find the answers to the questions, right? You could then distribute your worksheet, or learners could, for example, discuss the answers in pairs. Then you would take whole class feedback, and then you can distribute the Q&A sections like the one I showed you a moment ago. So that is an alternative. If Kahoot is not for you, it's an opportunity to practice language as well as convey information about the exam. So learners can read, locate the answers, discuss, and then they can consolidate without the pressure of time when they are doing Kahoots, for example, right? You will have alternatives. It's very important to consider the value of this to the learner, right? When learners are not aware or they are not certain about the answer to a question, this can cause anxiety, and we don't want that. Doing this will ensure that learners are given reliable and correct information. It's always good for us teachers as well because it's natural to forget some things. For example, how long is the reading paper in the B1 preliminary exam? Sometimes we remember, sometimes we may not be so sure. So we have the information for candidates booklet, as a reliable source. Teachers can guide learners to the information, they can find out more than the Q&A section. And also, learners will eventually ask other questions about the exam. So you are somehow bringing this to the surface, yeah? And also, it's an opportunity to practice language skills. So those values, they also apply to some of the things we're going to see in a moment, but we may add a few more values to the list, yeah? So in terms of building knowledge of the test, last month when you attended the webinar, we talked about ways of using the sample tests for A2 key all the way to C2 proficiency. But we can do something similar using the information for candidate booklets as well. So the aim is to review, what the papers look like, because there's a lot of information in this booklet. Review language, vocabulary, for example, and also build learners' confidence, yeah? What you need is a copy of or access to a section of the information for candidates. You don't have to do all the content at one go. You can focus on specific sections, for example, the listening section only. You could either stick the pages up on the board, or you can allow learners to access a PDF of the specific pages in small pairs and groups, right? This is part of the preparation for the activity. And then you could, for example, elicit questions about the exam, questions that learners have. How long is the exam? What skills are tested, especially if they are at the beginning of the preparation, right? Where you need to build confidence. Types of questions, length of the tasks, etc. And then you can ask learners which questions they can answer confidently, and then they can share this in pairs and small groups, right? Then you could use the information for candidates booklets for learners to do a treasure hunt, similarly to the activity that we saw last month in the webinar, so learners can work in small groups. You can either allow learners to access a PDF of the booklet, specific pages, or they can use the booklet in small groups, or you can display the pages on the board or a projection of the booklet on the board as well. Allow learners to explore the content, and then they can answer the questions you elicited in step 1 and any other questions that they may come up with. So it's one way of using this. Of course, you can extend the activity, and one way of doing a follow-up is allowing learners to create a board game as an option. You might have other ideas as well. And then they can play the board game with the content from the information for candidates booklet. So what is the value of doing this for the learners? Well, familiarization with the exam is key, right? To two things: building confidence and increasing the chances of success. Chances of success they have a lot to do with how familiar students feel, how confident they feel about this experience. Then teachers can guide learners to the booklets for further information. This will encourage, learners to ask further questions about the exam, and this gives opportunities to practice language skills as we saw previously, right? But then you teach young learners, and then you are preparing them for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, A2 flyers. How can we provide a variation of this to young learners? Well, the idea here is to, again, help learners build their knowledge, hence their confidence. But my suggestion for young learners is to use something that is more visual, more similar to the exam experience, right? So my idea here is to recommend using the sample papers for starters, movers, and flyers, because with the sample papers, you can do both language practice while you familiarize learners, young learners, with the exam. So you know that the exams are illustrated, and the sample test pages, they are so attractive that they could form part of classroom activities as well, not just the mock test. Yeah. So one variation for young learners is you could, for example, ask learners to come to the board, and your focus will be on the instructions for each task. Yeah. Because in each task, there is something that they are going to do that involves, of course, cognitive skills, but also physical movements. Yeah. So the idea is to get them to come to the board, and then they can point at tasks. So you could say to them, look, there is a task where you need to draw a line. Can you point to that task? And then they understand, the idea is to get young learners to understand what to do in each item of the exam, right? In each question, and the physical movements involved. So where do you need to write a word? And then you have the different pages of the exam displayed. Where do you need to write a number, for example? Where do you need to color? I think it was Sophia that mentioned that learners might ask, should I color all the picture? So this is a good one to help kids understand where they need to color and how they need to do the task, right? Coloring specific objects. Where do they need to match, or in which question they need to put a tick? So you see, lots of cognitive, but also physical things that learners should be aware of, right? So you can make sure that they understand the instructions, and then you can demonstrate you can mime the action as well. So we have there an element of total physical response. Well, next, one idea could be using an image from the sample paper. You could say, for example, I'm going to say something in the pictures now. For example, cats. The first person in the teams will run and put their hands on the picture of cats. And then you can demonstrate, right? And the first person to touch, or the first kid to touch a picture, gets a point for their team. And then you can say different things, and learners can play the teacher by saying things so that their peers can come and touch the images, etc. So there is an exam task, but you are using it for familiarization, yeah? We have an alternative as well, especially using, the things from, or the activities from the speaking paper for those exams. So with an adaptation for step 1, you have worked with those instructions, those movements, etc. One thing you could do, for example, is you could go through instructions that appear in each level, and maybe prioritize some of those instructions, because the exams have different features. Pre-A1 starters, there's a lot of pointing and moving pictures in the speaking paper, yeah? Well, movers, you have things like find the difference or describing the odd one out. And in the case of the exam, you have to write it in the reading and writing, you have to write a tick or put a cross, yeah? A2 flyers, you have matching activity, so you can prioritize specific instructions for the different age ranges and learners that are sitting the different exams. So they can be the focus of your activities, because that may be where they need more support. One more alternative would be, for example, using this handout where you have pictures of the instructions for the exam. Then you could cut the pictures, and then young learners could match with the instructions in writing. This handout, in case you show an interest, comes from the Mock Test Toolkit for Young Learners. It's a great resource that I'll be describing in more detail in a moment. So you will find the mock test toolkit, in this QR code. And another alternative would be, using those images here for the instructions, and then you can put them on one side, and then you can put the instructions in writing on the other side of the board, and learners have to do a matching by going there and actually drawing a line. You can do with a few images, with all of those images, it's really up to you. I always like prioritizing things that learners need to read to learn, most at this point in the exam preparation journey, right? So I mentioned the mock test toolkits because those are great resources if you are preparing learners for the Cambridge exams. The mock test toolkit will bring ideas and information in 3 sections: preparing, action, and giving learners feedback. And you have links to many resources as well. And all you need to do is go there, access it. It's freely available to teachers. And we have the mock test toolkit for young learners, as well as the mock test toolkit for older learners preparing for A2 key all the way to C2 proficiency. Lots of ideas. I highly recommend exploring the mock test toolkit. So take a picture of this screen or just grab, a screenshot, and so that you have the link and the QR code to access this resource. Yeah. Well, why do we need to build knowledge of the test? It's important, as I mentioned, familiarization, but also those sample tests, especially the ones for young learners, can be used creatively to practice language skills. And when you adopt a total physical response approach, this helps young learners to remember what to expect from the exam. Yeah. So you have lots of ways of using those resources and at the same time, you will be building knowledge and confidence in learners. Yeah. Well, I suppose this is the time for check-in. There is a QR code there for you to scan. You really need to check in. So, Sophia, what else should I need to say about the check-in moment?
Sorry. So yes, what they need to do, they scan the QR code on their phones, and you will get your certificate of attendance for this webinar. Okay.
Okay, fantastic. So,
yes, and Laura, can you please share the link on the chat, please, too? There you go. That's also the link.
mhm. This is great. This is check-in time, but while you check in, I'll be sharing some bits of information before we finish. Yeah. So while you check in, well, in this session, we talked about building confidence. We talked about frequently asked questions from learners and where to find the answers to those questions, right? We talked about doing quizzes in different ways, digitally or non-digitally. It's really up to you. We talked about building knowledge of the test for older learners, variation for young learners, and of course, we discussed a little bit of the value to the learner. And this is the check-in time. And while you check in as well, we have some useful links and references to share with you. Again, if you take a picture or grab a screenshot of this link here, but also Laura will be pasting the link in the chat. You are going to go to the exam preparation section, and in the exam preparation section, you will have the essentials categories. You will find information for candidate booklets in the learner essentials. You will find mock test toolkits, sample tests, and the exam preparation journey pack in the Teacher Essentials. So everything is organized in one place if you go to the Exam Prep Cambridge bit.ly link. Yeah. And you'll be able to access all the information that I shared with you today.